Hello, Normal Nation. My name is Jax James, and I am Normal's State Policy Manager here today to talk with you about some of our moving legislation and new legislation across the country. As you guys may know, legislative session has started in many states, not all, but many, and pre-filing has also started. So we have a lot of legislation that is incoming that we're looking at and seeing if it falls in line with our priorities. And so this is the weekly update of what is going on. I'm going to go alphabetic A to Z. So we'll start with Alaska. And of course, I encourage you guys to go ahead and comment where you're watching from in the comment section so that I can go back and look and see if maybe there's some extra things I can mention for you, because these are not by any means all of the bills, just the currently moving legislation. So starting in Alaska, we've got HB 28, which seeks to reduce the barriers to employment for people who have been convicted of low-level marijuana possession crimes that are going to be legal as of January 1, 2024. So there is an action alert for you to participate in that if you are from Alaska, excuse me. Additionally, we have two bills from Illinois having to do with expungement, HB 1101 and HB 1090. And this would make expungement automatic if the history is qualified and they have only been convicted of possession of cannabis. In Indiana, there's actually quite a few new bills. SB 70 seeks to decriminalize simple possession of an ounce or less of cannabis, hashish, and hash oil. HB 1297 seeks to decriminalize the possession of 2 ounces of marijuana or less. Under existing law, possession of any amounts is a criminal offense, and the people of the state of Indiana have some of the harshest punishments for possession in the nation. So if you live in Indiana or you know someone who does, check out our blog for the action alert link there so that you can send a message of support to your legislator. Additionally, there's two bills, House Bill 1263 and Senate Bill 237, which seek to establish medical marijuana programs. HB 1263 would permit the use of those that have serious medical conditions as determined by their physician, while also instituting certain patient protections. SB 237 would permit the use by those who have a qualifying condition or a serious medical condition. The patients would be permitted to possess 8 ounces or less of dried cannabis and home cultivate up to 12 marijuana plants. Currently, Indiana is one of the few states that has no medical cannabis program, depriving thousands of Indianans who have medical conditions from this proven and effective treatment of cannabis medicine. Lastly, there's some bills to regulate the adult use of cannabis. HB 1248 would allow adults to possess up to 4 ounces of dried flower and 25 milligrams of concentrates, as well as cultivate up to 4 plants in their home. And there's some provisions for equity and licensing in that bill. In Senate Bill 308, it would allow adults to purchase 1 ounce of cannabis or 5 grams of concentrates per day, with home delivery being allowed. And there's also licensing equity provisions for minorities and for veterans. So that is what's going on in Indiana. Let me come over here to the comments real quick and check and see what you guys are saying over here. All right, we've got Missouri in the house. Missouri is going to be seeing legislation as well. I don't believe that we have any in the update this week, but if you go to normal.org/act, you can hover over that dynamic map of the United States, hover over your state, and it'll show you all of the current bills in your state, where they're at, and the action alert links for you there. So definitely, that's the easiest way to do it. Now, moving on to Iowa. Senate File 73 seeks to legalize marijuana. It would allow residents that are 21 and older to possess 30 grams of flower, 5 grams of concentrates, and up to 500 milligrams of THC in an infused product. Non-residents may possess half of those amounts. No more than 1 ounce of marijuana or its equivalent in retail marijuana products may be purchased per transaction. Now, under existing state law, possessing, any amount of cannabis is a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 6 months of incarceration, with subsequent offenses climbing to felony level offenses. Cultivation and distribution is currently up to 5 years of incarceration. So this would be a great change for the people of Iowa. If you are in Iowa, make sure you check out that legislation there. Now, in Maryland, as you guys know, Maryland voters in 22 approved a referendum requiring lawmakers to promulgate the laws regulating commercial cannabis markets. They have yet to do so because this is their opportunity, the legislative session. So a few bills that we've seen filed so far, we've got Senate Bill 88, which would require that certain records having to do with your conviction for cannabis possession be automatically expunged. Senate Bill 51 would amend the statute determining reasonable suspicion and probable cause. It would provide that a finding of determination of reasonable suspicion or probable cause related to the offense of cannabis cannot be solely determined by smell, proximity, or the possession of money. So it does kind of tighten up that as it has to do with cannabis. Then there's another Senate Bill 73, which seeks to substitute civil penalties in place of criminal penalties for certain offenses relating to manufacturing, cultivating, possessing outside of the regulated market. So that would be, for amounts larger than are deemed legal in Maryland. So let's talk about Minnesota. Now, in Minnesota, there is a bill, House Bill 100, and its Senate companion SF 73, which want to allow adults 21 and up to be able to purchase up to 2 ounces of cannabis, to home cultivate up to 8 plants. It also creates the licensing system with prior marijuana convictions being able to be automatically expunged. It even allows for on-site consumption lounges and cannabis delivery services, which is really important. So this bill, HF 100, is scheduled for a hearing coming up on the 18th. So make sure that if you're in Minnesota, you participate in that action alert. In Mississippi, we've seen some bills filed. House Bill 338 would legalize possession up to 1 ounce of marijuana and cultivation of no more than 3 mature plants. Senate Bill 2097 seeks to delete the criminal penalty for less than 2.5 ounces of marijuana. Currently, under state law, only possession up to 30 grams is the first offense and subject to no criminal penalty. So that would help reduce the penalties for larger amounts of marijuana possession. Let me come over here real quick and just see where we have any comments here. Someone from Indiana. So I did cover those bills in Indiana. There are quite a few, so make sure you participate in those action alerts. We've got people from Alabama, no filings yet. Wisconsin, lots of conversation about upcoming legislation. We should see some more bills coming soon. Wyoming, no legislation there yet, but incoming. Let's see. All right, that's it as far as questions and where you guys are from. So let's keep going with Nebraska. So in Nebraska, a legislative bill 22 strikes references to cannabis from the state CSA, thereby repealing the existing criminal penalty for almost all marijuana-related activities. While it's unrealistic to think that lawmakers would ultimately agree to such an option, this bill can serve as a starting point to begin important legislative discussions regarding further reducing marijuana possession penalties and regulating the commercial cannabis market in Nebraska. In New Hampshire, legislation is pending to legalize the adult use of cannabis. So polling there shows 74% support legalizing cannabis, but currently under state law, simple possession of up to 3/4 of an ounce is a civil violation, and over 3/4 is a misdemeanor. So there are still penalties in New Hampshire, one of the lone states in the Northeast that have that. And there is also a medical market there. Or I'm sorry, a medical program, excuse me. But having to do with legalization, we've got House Bill 639, which would legalize the home cultivation of up to 6 plants for those 21 and older. It authorizes a new standalone cannabis commission to regulate the commercial production and sales, and it would be subject to an 8.5% meal and rooms tax. Then there's HB 344, which permits adults to possess up to 3/4 of an ounce of cannabis, 5 grams of hashish, and certain cannabis infused products, and also allows for the home cultivation of up to 6 plants. HB 643 and HB 544 are fairly similar bills that would allow for regulated cannabis to be administered to adults and patients, and home cultivation would remain prohibited. And House Bill 360, it repeals the I'm sorry, a little tongue-tied on that. It repeals the possession and use of cannabis, or the prohibition of that for those 21 and up, and it would strike almost all current references to cannabis in the CSA, similar to the bill I mentioned in Nebraska. So if you live in New Hampshire, make sure you participate in those action alerts. Additionally, there is a bill that would enhance employment rights for qualified patients, and they are scheduled for a hearing. That's HB 82 in the House Labor, Industrial, and Rehabilitative Service Committee on the 19th, so this Thursday. And lastly, in New Hampshire, HB 431 seeks to permit qualifying patients and caregivers to cultivate up to 6 plants for their own therapeutic use. Now, recently, New Hampshire's Therapeutic Cannabis Medical Oversight Board voted to endorse legalizing medical marijuana for home cultivation in the Granite State. Let me come back over here real quick. I think I see more comments. Might be where you guys are from. All right. Awesome. I see some of y'all helping each other on how to get to the action alerts. Thank you. If you go to norml.org/act, at the top, you'll see our federal action alerts. And then underneath, you will actually see a dynamic map. You can hover over your state, and that will pop up all of the currently tracked bills that we have action alerts for in your state. So coming back, wrapping it up with a few of these last bills for us to cover. In New York, we've got Senate Bill 1023, which would establish reciprocity between New York's medical program and other states, which is a very important issue for especially patients who need to be able to access their medicine while traveling. Additionally, in North Dakota, Senate Bill 268 seeks to increase the maximum monthly purchasable amount of THC for patients. Currently, the monthly allowance is 400 milligrams. The update there is that the Senate has amended and passed the bill with a vote of 33 to 14. Originally, the bill sought to double that purchasable amount from 400 to 800, but now the amended version would raise the THC amount to 600 milligrams per month. Now, in South Dakota, there's SD1, which seeks to remove the ability for medical cannabis patients and others to petition the Department of Health to add new qualifying conditions. If passed, new conditions could only be added by the legislature. Lawmakers are not doctors, and decisions over which patients may benefit from medical cannabis should not be left solely up to their discretion. And also, patients shouldn't have to wait every however long in between sessions to have their conditions added. The SD1 has a hearing in the Senate Health and Human Services Committee scheduled for tomorrow. So if you're in South Dakota, I definitely encourage you to participate. Now, this is not a state policy update. It is a ballot initiative update. But if you are watching in Oklahoma, here's your reminder to register to vote. In order to get your voter registration card in your hands in Oklahoma, you will need to register to vote by the 20th. Now, you can continue to register until the deadline. You just may not end up having your voter registration card. But mark the date March 7th on your calendar. That will be the date that SQ 820 will be on the Oklahoma ballot, and it is the only item on the ballot that day. So it is the first time to our knowledge that regulated cannabis sales has been a standalone special election one item ballot. So if you are in Oklahoma, make sure we turn out the vote for that and get Oklahoma legalized for the adult use of cannabis as well. So I don't see any further questions in the comments here, but again, I encourage you to share the blog, share our action page. If you are in a state and you're not in connection with your local NORML chapter, I also encourage you to check out our chapters. As legislative sessions continue to move, these are going to be the people that you want to coordinate with and be on the ground getting the work done in your state. So on that note, I will see you guys next Tuesday with more updates. We are getting dozens of bills a day for us to read, evaluate, and either monitor or track with action alerts. And so we will continue to update you guys on the newly filed bills and bills that are advancing either to committee hearings or through different chambers. So January is usually pretty hectic with filings, and then February, March are pretty hectic with bills moving through the legislature. So I definitely encourage you all to stay connected, stay tuned, and I will be back to see you guys here next Tuesday, same place, same time. And until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Make sure that all of your friends are also participating in the actions from your state so that we can help institute some important change across our country. So thank you for listening today, guys. Have a great day.